Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today we're going to be talking about the Missouri Tigers and their 2023 season. As always, if you're new to the channel, please do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. We go live every Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern to talk ball, so please show up for that as well. But, Dad, how do you feel about Missouri and their season, their surprising season?
Yeah, I think their season was a shock to everybody. I, in no way, and I think we did a preview video on them, there is no way I had them going 11-2, finishing second in the East. I had Tennessee, Georgia, obviously, who did finish ahead of them, but they had some surprising wins, and I think we saw the groundwork for their season very early. So they beat Kansas State, who was ranked at the time. They played LSU very close. They beat Kentucky. They beat South Carolina. They played Georgia very close, and then they demolished Tennessee and then beat Florida, and then demolished Arkansas. So this was not something that I suspected, but I also didn't suspect that Brady Cook would be as good as he was this year. Over 3,000 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, just seemed to really right this ship and get this offense going in the right direction. This is going to be a good team this upcoming year. Brady Cook is obviously back, so they are going to be a good team. The question is, can they sustain it? Can they be this team, not just this past year and this upcoming season, but can Mizzou start to get in recruits? Can they start to be that top team? They are losing some players. They're losing their top running back, 1,600-yard rusher. That really was a big part of this offense, Schrader. But like I said, they're bringing back Brady Cook, who is going to be a big deal for them. They're bringing back Luther Burden. They're bringing back Theo Weiss. So they're bringing back Mookie Cooper. So they're bringing back some big pieces of this team. I think if 11-2 last year, I suspect that they're going to be right about there this upcoming season as well. This is going to be a good team for Missouri. What's your thoughts?
So I want to start off by saying we did not do a preview on this team.
Okay.
We were going to. JB, who's an avid viewer of the channel, a very good supporter of ours, a big Missouri fan. He told us early in the year that this team would be where they are, and yeah, I clowned him. I did not think it would happen.
Oh, okay.
So I'm on record, and I will say I was wrong about Missouri. This is a really good team this year. I agree with you. I do think they're going to be very good next year as well. I briefly just looked at their schedule. They play Oklahoma and Alabama, Auburn, A&M. So I think they're probably going to finish with 1 to 2 regular season losses with a real chance to get in the first 12-team playoff. Obviously, like you said, they bring back Brady Cook. They bring back Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, Cooper as well. You obviously lose Cody Schrader. I'm not sure what's going on defensively, how much they're losing. I know they brought in Toriano Pride Jr. from Clemson. I think he was a top 3 corner inside the transfer portal, so that's a big add. He's from St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken, so he went back home to play. I'm pretty sure they got an offensive lineman as well in the portal. I could be wrong, but I think they got an offensive lineman from Alabama, either Alabama or Georgia, one of the two, if you want to fact check me on that. But I do think this team is going to be really good this year. But just to kind of more so talk about last year, obviously, in my opinion, came out of absolutely nowhere. According to JB, they didn't. This is where he expected them to be. But you lose by 10 points to LSU and then lose by 9 points to Georgia. Those are both respectable losses. I think Missouri is a better team than LSU was by the end of the year. So I don't think that game is too indicative of the type of team that Missouri was. We obviously saw them beat Ohio State, which, again, Ohio State was without a lot of players. I'm sure Missouri was with a lot of players as well. They beat Tennessee. They absolutely manhandled Tennessee by 30. And then you still beat a ranked Kentucky team, ranked Kansas State. You beat a good Florida team, obviously, by the end of the year. And then you win at Arkansas, which obviously we've seen Raheem Sanders and KJ Jefferson hit the portal, so that's not the same team. But I think overall a very, very good season for Missouri. I would even go as far as to saying they probably had, based on their expectations, they probably had the best season of anybody. When we're talking about the expectations. Yeah, exactly. So based on what they were intended or in what they were expected to do in preseason, finishing in the top 10, finishing second in the SEC, competing in every single game, even against the LSU and the Georgia game, and you play lights out throughout the remainder of the year. You win a New Year's Six bowl game against a team that we're considering to be a national championship favorite next year. I think you have to say that this program is on the upper trajectory. Now, like you said, we don't know if they're going to be able to sustain it. We don't know if this is a one and done type deal. But with their schedule not having to play a Georgia or a Texas next year, who I anticipate being the best two teams in the SEC next year, I think it benefits them greatly. I know the SEC is going divisionless next year, so I think with them not having to play those two teams, they have a real shot to win the SEC. They're not going to be my top two favorite, but I wouldn't put them as a dark horse. I wouldn't say dark horse. They're definitely not a dark horse anymore based on the year they had and what they're bringing back. But kind of what is your takeaway and your kind of your look on the future for them?
Yeah, so you mentioned they didn't creep up from anywhere. In 2022, they were 6-7. I think most people suspected that Missouri was a bottom of the SEC type team. This was one of the easy games. Now, the concern going forward is that next year, while they bring back a bunch, they are no longer going to sneak up on teams. Teams are going to be prepared. You're going to understand that Missouri is going to be a game. When you bring back your starting quarterback, your top three receivers, as we mentioned, people are not going to take you lightly. So can they play with the pressure on? I suspect this is going to be a top 15 team, if not a top 10 team as the season opens. So there's going to be expectations that were not there this past year. They were able to sneak up on teams. Again, and I understand JB loves Missouri and had been saying that they were going to be good. I don't think a lot of the national pundits really believe that this Missouri team was going to be 11-2. Next year, there's going to be expectation that they're 11-2. If they cannot repeat the same season, it's going to be a little bit of a disappointment. So the question is, how do they play when there's expectations, when they're not sneaking up on teams, when they're not the national story of being David taking on Goliaths, when now you're a Goliath. Now people are expecting you to go out and win games, and you have some very tough, some very good games that you need to win, that you would need to win to be in that national picture. 12 teams makes it a little bit easier, but the SEC is going to be stacked next year. And I suspect there's only going to be 3 or maybe four at most teams getting in from the SEC. So if you kind of did math and you say Georgia's probably in that conversation, Alabama's probably in that conversation. We just talked about Ole Miss and what they're returning. They're returning Texas. A lot. Texas, Oklahoma. There's a bunch of teams that are going to be fighting for those last positions. So you're not sneaking up on anybody anymore. You've shown that you can play at this level. You've shown that you can play with the big boys. So can you do it when people aren't overlooking you, when people aren't looking to the next week, when people are going to game plan and take Missouri very serious? I'm not saying they can't. I think they're going to have a good season. I think they're going to be in that picture. But we'll see. This is new territory, at least as we know it, for Missouri.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very valid point. Again, I think it would be a bit ignorant to say that, well, they did it this year, they can do it next year, because it does matter when, a team has to prepare for a team knowing that they just won a New Year's Six and finished in the top 10. You bring back, you have film on Brady Cook. You have film on all these receivers. Obviously, you lose Schrader, which I'm assuming they're going to replace with somebody who's good. But when you just look at the film aspect, you have an entire season of film on this quarterback and this team. And every opponent is going to circle that date on the calendar. They know that this is a team that finished in the top 10 with an outside shot at the playoffs. Obviously, they really weren't in discussion. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, they were in the top 10. So if the playoffs were the 12th team this past year, they would have been in. So teams are going to look at it that way. So I think, like you said, not being able to, quote unquote, sneak up on teams is different when you become the mountain, as Nick Saban said. When people know that when Nick Saban said, when you climb the mountain so many times, you become the mountain. Your game gets circled every week. So I'm not saying that Missouri is Alabama, so don't take that the wrong way. But I'm just saying they're 11.
But now you're in that upper echelon.
Yeah. So people are not going to overlook you. You're not the Vanderbilts of the world, and no disrespect to Vanderbilt, but that's just how the situation is. So, Yeah, Missouri fans, please let us know in the comment section what you guys think of your season. Again, a very successful season for the Missouri Tigers, the best Tigers in college football this year, obviously above my Clemson Tigers
Were
and
they?
LSU.
Yeah, and LSU,
The best Tiger. I mean, LSU technically beat them, but they finished higher than them at the end. So I would say Missouri was the best Tigers in college football. Shout
And
out
I'm
to
sure
JB.
somebody's going to mention this, but they did get Marcus Carroll in the transfer portal. He's coming over from Georgia State. He was a 1,300-yard rusher at Georgia State. Different level of competition, but they are at least attempting to replace the running game. So just before anybody mentions it, yes, we are aware.
Also, they didn't get an offensive line from Alabama. It was from Oklahoma.
Okay.
Caden Green, 4-star offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. So I'm very excited to see if this team can replicate it. Obviously, I know JB's excited to see it. He kind of, like I said, he spoke it into existence. So hopefully Missouri has a good year next year. Like I said, without having to play Georgia, Texas, I think it's kind of in the same situation as the Louisville team this year, where you kind of can skate by without playing the two top dogs. They still got to play Alabama, and we know who Alabama is, but I do think Georgia and Texas are a little bit in a better position than Alabama is right now. But like I said, as always, if you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. We go live every single Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. We just gave away a signed Tim Tebow jersey. We're going to continue to give away jerseys every 1,000 subscriber mark. So please join our community, talk football with us on a daily basis. But we will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.
Peace.